Good evening, listeners. My name is EveningWhisperTales. Tonight, I'll be telling you some scary horror stories to help you relax and fall asleep. If you enjoy this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Now, let's begin our evening together. Story 1. The drive home took too long. You noticed it first because your daughter stopped humming. She always hummed in the car, tuneless little songs she invented on the spot about clouds or dogs or the way windshield wipers moved like dancers. The sound usually filled the back seat, soft and comforting. When it stopped, the silence felt larger than it should have. You glanced in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, forehead pressed lightly to the glass, her breath making a small foggy oval that faded and reappeared. "Everything okay?" you asked. She nodded without turning. Your wife was asleep beside you, head tilted toward the door, one hand resting in her lap. The road stretched ahead in pale ribbons beneath your headlights. Trees crowded close on either side, their trunks reflecting dull silver. You frowned. You didn't remember the highway being this narrow. The GPS glowed on the dashboard. No street names, no route numbers, just a gray map, and a blue dot drifting forward through nothing. You slowed a little. The trees didn't. They stayed tight to the road, branches knitting overhead like ribs. The radio cut out in the middle of a song, not to static, not to silence, but to the faintest hiss, as if the car had begun breathing. Your daughter whispered, "Dad?" "Yeah? Are we still going home?" You opened your mouth to answer and realized you didn't know what exit that was supposed to be. Story 2. The porch light was already on. The car rolled to a stop without you pressing the brake. You stared down at your foot, still hovering. Ahead of you, the forest opened into a clearing, and in that clearing sat a house. 2 stories, pale siding, windows dark except for one upstairs light, glowing warm yellow, like someone had left a lamp on for you. A wide porch wrapped across the front, railings freshly painted, boards clean and dry despite the damp forest floor. No driveway, no mailbox, no other houses. Your wife stirred. "Did we stop?" "I think so," you said, though you weren't sure who had decided it. Your daughter leaned forward between the seats. "That's not our street." "I know." Fog crept low across the grass, stopping neatly at the porch steps as if it had been drawn with a ruler. When you opened the car door, the porch light brightened, not flickered, brightened. You froze. Your wife noticed this time. "Did that just..." "It's probably motion sensing," you said. It didn't sound convincing even to you. The boards shifted when you stepped onto them, not creaking, but adjusting. The sound of wood settling around a weight it had been expecting. You helped your daughter up the steps, felt how warm the railing was under your palm. Too warm. The front door stood slightly ajar. Inside drifted the smell of laundry detergent and old wood. Your daughter squeezed your hand harder than usual. "Dad?" she whispered. "I don't like this one." "This one?" your wife repeated. She didn't answer. The door swung open wider on its own. Story 3. The house prepared dinner. The door closed behind you with a soft, careful click. Not loud, not final, just done. Warm air brushed your face. The house smelled clean. Soap, cooked food, fabric dried too long in a machine. The entryway stretched forward in neat lines, polished floor, runner rug centered perfectly, staircase curving up the right wall. Family photos lined the left. Except they weren't families. They were kitchens, bedrooms, bathtubs, closets, each frame shot labeled with small brass plaques, dining room table, hallway corner, child's bed. Your stomach tightened. The dining room light was on. You hadn't turned it on. 6 plates sat arranged around the table. 6? Your wife leaned close. Why 6? We're 3, your daughter whispered. The kitchen beyond gleamed. A pot steamed gently on the stove, releasing the smell of soup, chicken broth, carrots, something herbal and comforting enough to make your stomach twist with hunger. 3 bowls waited. Steam curled upward like breath. Your wife stared. Did you cook this? You shook your head slowly. Your daughter tugged your sleeve. Dad, someone made dinner. The stove clicked off. Behind you, upstairs, something creaked. Not footsteps, something heavier, settling. And from the hallway wall came a faint sound, soft and pleased, like the house had just confirmed it had set the table correctly. Story 4. The guest room was for her. You didn't sit down to eat. None of you did. The 3 bowls waited on the table, steam thinning into the air, while the rest of the house stayed unnaturally quiet. The ticking of a clock you couldn't see filled the spaces between your breaths. Let's just check the rooms, your wife said, keeping her voice low for your daughter's sake. You nodded. Your daughter didn't let go of your hand. The staircase runner felt thick beneath your shoes, muffling sound in a way that made the upper floor seem farther than it should have been. Halfway up, you noticed framed photographs on the wall. Not portraits, rooms again, but these had changed. Each frame showed a bed, different beds, different angles, a twin bed beneath a window, a crib with a mobile, a bunk bed against a painted wall. Your wife stopped walking. These weren't here before. You hadn't noticed when you came in. At the top of the stairs, 3 doors waited. One was marked with a small brass plaque, guest room. Another, master bedroom. The third, you swallowed, child's room. Your daughter stared at that one. That's not my room, she said. The door beneath the sign creaked open a few inches by itself. Warm air drifted out, powdery soap, clean cotton. Your wife squeezed your arm. Why does it smell like her shampoo? You pushed the door open slowly. Inside waited a small bedroom, pink lamp, stuffed animals arranged neatly along the pillow, a quilt patterned with stars. None of it belonged to your daughter, and yet, the backpack at the foot of the bed did. The frayed strap, the glitter keychain she insisted on keeping even though it had lost most of its sparkle. She made a small sound in her throat. I left that in the car. Story 5. The bed knew her shape. Your daughter didn't want to go inside. She didn't say it out loud, but you felt it in the way her fingers tightened around yours, nails pressing through your skin. You stepped into the room anyway. The carpet was warm, not heated, warm like someone had just gotten up. The bedspread had been smoothed carefully, but there was a shallow depression in the middle, the shape of a small body lying on its side. Your wife reached out without thinking and touched the pillow, pulled her hand back fast. It's warm. You felt anger, flare, not loud, not panicked, but sharp and protective. No, you said to the room, not to your family, to the space itself. Nothing answered, but the closet door shifted slightly, widening just enough to show darkness behind hanging clothes that hadn't been there before. Your daughter whispered, Dad, that's my jacket. It was, the red one with the ripped sleeve you kept meaning to sew. Inside the closet hung 3 copies of it, all different levels of warm, like the house was testing which version fit best. On the nightstand sat a folded piece of paper. Your wife opened it, blank. Then letters pressed slowly into the page, as if written from the other side. She sleeps on her left side. Your wife dropped it. Behind you, somewhere deeper in the house, Ward shifted, satisfied. Story 6. Your wife's name came next. You shut the door to the child's room harder than you meant to. The sound echoed too long. Your wife stared at you. We need to go, she whispered. You nodded. You moved back toward the stairs. The hallway felt narrower now, not by sight, by skin. The walls seemed closer to your shoulders, the ceiling lower, like the house was quietly remeasuring you. Another door stood open at the far end, the one labeled Master Bedroom. You hadn't opened it before. You didn't want to. Your wife did. She stepped forward before you could stop her. The room beyond was larger than the others. Wide windows, pale curtains drawn back to show nothing but gray fog. A dresser lined one wall. A closet mirrored the one downstairs. The bed was made perfectly. Your suitcase sat at the foot. Her overnight bag sat beside it. On the dresser were 2 toothbrushes, one blue, one pink. Your wife picked up the pink one slowly. I didn't pack this. Behind it sat a framed photograph. You froze. It showed the 3 of you asleep in a bed that was not yours. Your daughter in the middle, your wife's arm around her, your own hand resting on the blanket. You leaned closer. The photo was warm, like it had just been printed, and beneath the frame was a brass plaque screwed into the dresser. First Night, Story 7. The doors that learn what you fear. You didn't remember backing away from the master bedroom. Your legs did it for you, one slow step at a time, pulling your wife and daughter with you until the framed photograph disappeared behind the door frame. The hallway felt warmer now, not comfortable, personal, like the house had leaned closer to listen to your heartbeats. Your daughter whispered, "Daddy?" You crouched in front of her, hands on her shoulders. "We're okay, just stay with us." She nodded too quickly. Behind her, the door to the child's room creaked. You turned. It had been shut. Now it wasn't. The star-patterned quilt inside the room shifted, smoothed itself. The pink lamp clicked on. Your wife sucked in a breath. I didn't touch anything. I know. The closet door inside the room slid open another inch. Slow, quiet. A drawer inside the master bedroom pulled out with a soft wooden whisper. 2 rooms adjusting at once. The house wasn't choosing randomly. It was running tests. You backed toward the stairs. The staircase light brightened. Behind you, the hallway dimmed. A gentle suggestion disguised as lighting. Down. The house wanted you downstairs. You didn't argue with it. Story 8. The phone rang for her. The kitchen was lit when you reached it, not harsh. Warm, low bulbs glowing under cabinets. Shadows blurred into something almost cozy. Too cozy. Your daughter stopped walking. My phone is ringing. You blinked. You don't have your phone. She looked up at you, confused. Yes, I do. Your stomach tightened. It rang again, not from her pocket, from the counter. A small pink phone sat there. Not yours, not your wife's, your daughter's old phone. The one that had stopped working months ago and been left in a drawer at home. It vibrated once, stopped, then lit up. Mom glowed on the screen. Your wife's breath hitched. That's not possible. The phone rang again. Your daughter reached for it. You grabbed her wrist gently but firmly. No. The screen changed. Dad. Then home. The ringing softened into something closer to a lullaby tone. Your wife whispered, "Turn it off." You reach for the power button. The phone didn't respond. Instead, a voicemail began to play. Your wife's voice filled the kitchen, not panicked, not confused, calm, sleepy. "Sweetheart, come upstairs, it's ready." Your daughter stared at the phone, tears pooling. "Mommy, you're right here." Your wife shook her head slowly. "I didn't say that." The kitchen lights dimmed slightly. The voicemail repeated. Story 9. The chair that sat for you. You shoved the phone into a drawer and slammed it shut. The ringing stopped immediately. Too immediately. Like the house had been waiting for you to make that choice. The drawer stayed shut. The kitchen felt thicker. The air warm, heavy, full of unsaid things. "Okay," you said, louder than you meant to. "We're leaving right now." You herded them toward the front door. It wasn't there. The wall was smooth, no handle, no outline, just wallpaper and a framed photograph where the door should have been. Your wife whispered, "That's not funny." "I know." You moved to the side door near the pantry. Gone. Laundry room exit. Gone. Only walls. In the living room, the couches had been replaced, not moved, replaced. 3 armchairs sat in a semicircle facing the fireplace. 1 large, 1 medium, 1 small. Your daughter clutched your sleeve. "Those are our sizes." The smallest chair rocked once, slow, gentle, inviting. On the coffee table lay 3 folded blankets, still warm. Your wife whispered, "It wants us to sit." The fireplace flared brighter. You backed away. Behind you the stairs creaked. Not footsteps. Something settling into a position it expected you to take. Story 10. The house serves bedtime. The 3 chairs waited like an instruction you were supposed to recognize. Your wife stood with your daughter half behind her leg, fingers curled into the fabric of your wife's shirt. Your daughter's eyes moved from the smallest chair to the blankets on the table, then to the dark staircase as if she could feel the house's attention up there. "It's like story time," she whispered, voice thin. The way she said it, soft, nearly hopeful, made something in you crack, because the house had dressed itself in the shape of a routine. Because routines are hard to fight when you're tired and afraid and trying not to scare your child. You walked to the chairs without sitting. You moved slow, searching for strings, wires, speakers, anything. The blankets were folded into perfect rectangles, one patterned with tiny stars, one plain gray, one floral. So close to the throw your wife kept on your couch at home that your breath caught. You lifted the star blanket carefully, warm, not warm from air, warm from a body. Your wife flinched. "Don't." On the underside of the blanket was a stitched label, like the tag in a child's jacket, only it wasn't a brand. It was your daughter's name. You dropped it and it fell back into place as if it had weight and memory. The fireplace brightened in response, the flames pushing higher behind the glass with a slow, satisfied pulse. Then the house did something gentle that felt cruel. A quiet melody began to play, not from a speaker, from the walls. A lullaby tune you recognized because your wife used to hum it when your daughter couldn't sleep. The same rhythm, the same tiny pause between notes. Your wife went pale. I haven't hummed that in a long time." Your daughter swayed slightly, eyes glassy like her body remembered safety before her mind could object. The smallest chair rocked once, twice, and from upstairs something shifted in the child's room. Soft fabric sliding, bed springs settling, like the house was finishing the bedtime setup. Story 11. The staircase doesn't like. "No," Okay, you said, loud, sharp, more for yourself than anyone. We're not doing this. You took your wife's hand and your daughter's, pulling them toward where the front door should have been. Wallpaper, smooth wall. A framed picture of the foyer, empty and neat, hung where the exit had existed earlier. You stepped closer to the frame. The photograph showed the foyer, and in the photograph, the front door was open. Beyond it, darkness, not night. Dark, but something deeper, like the color of closed eyes. A shape stood just outside the threshold, half visible, tall, patient, turned slightly as if waiting to be invited in. Your wife whispered, "Don't look too long." You yanked the frame off the wall. The wallpaper beneath was clean. No outline, no hidden knob, just wall. Your daughter began to cry, quietly at first, like she was trying not to be scolded for having feelings. Your wife scooped her up and rocked her, but the rocking didn't soothe. It looked too much like the chair's movement, like the house's suggestion performed in human form. Then the staircase creaked, one step, then another, as if the house had taken your refusal and translated it into a new instruction. "Fine, I'll come to you." You all turned toward the stairs. Nothing was there, but the creaking continued, slow bends of wood, the sound traveling downward, step by step, closer to the living room. Your daughter buried her face in your wife's shoulder. "Daddy, someone's coming." Your wife's voice shook. "There's no one." The creaking stopped at the bottom step. Silence. Then the stair runner shifted slightly, fibers smoothing as if something invisible had just stepped off onto the hallway floor. The air cooled where it moved, a narrow trail of chill sliding toward the living room. You backed away, heart hammering. Your daughter's sobs softened, not because she calmed, because the house hummed again, low and rhythmic, the lullaby's notes turning into something like white noise, a comfort weapon. Story 12. The child's room calls her back. It wasn't a voice at first, it was a feeling. Your daughter's attention pulled toward the stairs like a magnet tugging on a hidden pin. Her body went still, crying stopped mid-breath, and her head lifted as if she'd heard her name spoken far away. "Sweetie," your wife whispered, "talk to me." Your daughter blinked slowly, then pointed upward. "My bed," she said. Your stomach dropped. "That's not your bed." "It is," she insisted with the stubborn certainty only kids have, the certainty that comes from being too young to doubt your own senses. "It's mine. It smells like me." Your wife looked at you with panic starting to rise behind her eyes. "We can't take her up there." But the house made the choice easier by making it harder to stay. The living room lights dimmed until the corners thickened. The fireplace brightened until it became the only warm thing. The hallway narrowed with shadow, the walls seeming closer, as if the house were gently compressing the space to guide you upward. Then, from upstairs, a small sound floated down. A child's laugh. Not your daughter's laugh. Close enough to be confusing, wrong enough to make your skin crawl. Your daughter leaned forward in your wife's arms, reaching toward the staircase. "That's me." "No," you said too fast, too hard. The laugh came again, softer this time, like someone laughing into a pillow. Your daughter whispered, "She's lonely." Your wife stiffened. "Who is she?" Your daughter's eyes stayed fixed on the stairs. "Me, from before." The house hummed, pleased like it had been waiting for your daughter to understand first. And then the smallest armchair in the living room rocked, slowly, gently, as if clapping without hands. Story 13. The house uses your wife's voice. You didn't go upstairs, not yet. You tried to anchor your family in the living room, where you could see corners and door frames, where you could keep your daughter between you and whatever the house was doing. Your wife held her tightly, rocking without meaning to, the motion small and repetitive, comfort stolen from the house and performed back at it like a shield. The armchair rocked again, not the smallest one this time. The medium chair, the one that felt like it had been sized for your wife, tilted back and forward with a slow, patient rhythm. The blanket draped over its arm slipped a fraction and then caught, as if an invisible hand had adjusted it. You took a step toward the chair, not because you wanted to sit, but because you needed to prove it was just furniture. The fireplace flared brighter. Warmth pushed outward, thickening the air, and the lullaby hum in the walls deepened. Slower notes, a steadier pulse. It wasn't music anymore, it was breathing. Your daughter's head lifted again. Her eyes tracked upward toward the ceiling, toward the upstairs rooms. She wasn't crying now. She looked calm in a way that frightened you more than sobbing. "She's listening," your daughter whispered. "Listening to what?" your wife asked, voice shaking. Your daughter blinked. "To Mommy." Your wife's mouth opened, but before she could speak, the sound came, soft, close, intimate, as if your wife had leaned toward your daughter's ear. "Sweetheart," a voice whispered, "come upstairs." Your wife went rigid. "That wasn't me." The voice came again, warmer, gentler, exactly your wife's tone when she tried not to sound frustrated at bedtime. "Just for a minute, your blanket is there." Your daughter's body shifted in your wife's arms, leaning toward the staircase as if pulled by a thread. Your wife tightened her grip, eyes wide. "Stop," you said, turning toward the ceiling, toward the walls. "Stop using her voice." Silence answered. Then, from the hallway behind you, the same voice, your wife's voice, spoke again, closer now, as if standing just out of sight. "I'm tired," it said softly. Your wife started to cry, quick, shallow tears. "I didn't say that." The voice repeated it, slower, like practicing. "I'm tired." And the house hummed in approval, learning the shape of her words, the way it had learned the shape of your daughter's sleep. Story 14. The family photo updates. You took your family into the hallway because staying near the staircase felt like waiting for something to arrive. Movement made you feel less trapped, even if the house rearranged itself to keep you inside. The framed photographs along the wall seemed brighter than before, their glass catching the lamplight. You hadn't wanted to look at them earlier. Now you couldn't stop. The first frame showed the living room. 3 chairs, fireplace glowing, blankets folded neatly. It looked exactly as it did now, except in the photo, the smallest chair held your daughter, curled under the star blanket. Your heart kicked hard. You turned away from the picture and stared at the actual living room. Your daughter was still in your wife's arms. You looked back at the frame. The image had changed. Now your daughter wasn't in the chair. Now she stood near the bottom of the stairs, one hand on the banister, head tilted upward as if listening. Your wife made a strangled sound. "What is that?" You reached for the frame, fingers trembling. The glass was warm as skin. You lifted it off the wall, holding it like a dangerous thing. Underneath was a clean patch of wallpaper, but the brass plaque remained, screwed into the wall. Evening routine. The words on the plaque were new. You were sure they hadn't been there. The photo in your hand shifted again while you watched, not like a video, like a memory adjusting. Now your wife stood alone in the hallway, her back to the camera, facing the child's room door, and beside her, in the reflection of the glass, you saw someone else, tall and still, standing just behind her shoulder. Your wife whispered, "Don't show me." You lowered the frame, but you couldn't stop seeing it. The house wasn't predicting, it wasn't recording, it was rehearsing. You put the frame back on its hook, desperate for it to stop moving. It settled into place with the quiet satisfaction of something returned. As you turned, your daughter looked up at you and asked, in a small, steady voice that didn't sound like her, "Can we please just do bedtime the right way?" Story 15. The Rule, the House. Once the sentence hit you like cold water. Your daughter didn't whine, she didn't plead. She said it like an adult, like someone who had repeated the same phrase 1,000 nights, the tone of a person who expects routine to be obeyed. Your wife stared at her. "Sweetie, what did you just say?" Your daughter blinked slowly, then frowned as if confused by your confusion. "Bedtime," she repeated. "We're late." You crouched in front of her, forcing your voice gentle. "Who told you that?" She pointed upward, toward the second floor, but her finger didn't tremble. It was steady, confident. "The house? She said we're late." "She?" You echoed, throat tight. Your daughter shrugged one shoulder. "The one who lives in my room." A chill rolled through you, not fear chill. The deeper kind, the kind that crawls into your bones and tells you you're standing too close to something that knows your name. Your wife whispered, "There's no one in your room." Your daughter smiled faintly, a sleepy little smile that wasn't quite hers. "There will be." The house hummed, low and soothing, wrapping the hallway in warmth. The staircase light brightened again, inviting, guiding. The shadows behind you softened, making downstairs feel less safe, less relevant. You felt it then, the rule the house wanted, not a command like go upstairs, a rule like a habit, a ritual, a structure that would make the house's job easy because it would become your job. Your notebook wasn't there, none of you had brought it in, but you suddenly knew, as clearly as if it had been written on paper, what the house expected next. Bath, pajamas, story, bed. And when you resisted, the house didn't punish with violence. It punished with discomfort, with wrongness, with a slow tightening of space until doing bedtime the right way felt like the only relief. Your wife took your hand, nails digging in. We can't follow it." You looked at your daughter, so small, so tired, and realized the house had found the sharpest leverage in the world, a child who wanted to sleep, and a parent who would do anything to make that happen. Story 16. The bathroom is already warm. You decided not to go upstairs. That was the first rule you tried to keep. You took your daughter's hand and guided her toward the downstairs bathroom instead, telling yourself that changing the order might break whatever ritual the house was building. If bedtime was a pattern, you would scramble it. If the house wanted steps, you would take different ones. The hallway lights dimmed behind you. The bathroom light turned on ahead of you. You stopped walking. Your wife whispered, "Did you?" "No." The door stood open. Steam curled gently out of the room. Your daughter sniffed the air. "Bath." "I didn't run one," your wife said. Inside, the tub was full, not overflowing, not splashing, full to the perfect level. Water still, mirror fogged, little ripples spreading slowly across the surface like something had just been lifted out. A rubber duck floated near the drain. Your daughter's favorite one, the yellow paint chipped on one side. You hadn't seen it since last summer. You reached into the water, warm, exactly bath warm. Your wife backed up a step. No, 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 no. Your daughter tugged gently at your hand. It's ready. The drain made a soft gulping noise. The water level dropped half an inch. Stopped, as if waiting. The house wasn't offering, it was correcting. Story 17. The pajamas are folded. You shut the bathroom door, harder than necessary. The steam kept creeping out under the crack at the bottom anyway. Stay with me, your wife whispered to your daughter. You backed away slowly. The hallway felt narrower again, shoulders brushing air that wasn't quite there. The carpet fibers leaned toward the stairs like a brushed animal's fur, pointing the way up whether you wanted them to or not. You reached the child's room before realizing you'd turned. You hadn't meant to. The door was open. Inside, pajamas lay folded on the bed, pink, with little stars. Not the pair your daughter wore tonight, a different one, newer. On the dresser sat her toothbrush in a cup. Beside it, yours. Beside that, your wife's. 3 cups, 3 brushes, aligned. Your daughter tilted her head. Those are my sleepy ones. Your wife whispered, What do you mean? She shrugged. The ones for when we stay. Your stomach clenched. You crossed the room and opened the closet. 3 sets of pajamas hung inside. Small, medium, large, in colors each of you liked. On the shelf above them were slippers, 3 pairs, arranged heel to toe. You slammed the closet shut. The pajamas on the bed didn't move, but the fabric settled, like something had just touched them. Story 18, the storybook. On the nightstand, you told yourself you wouldn't read it. The book waited on the nightstand as if it had always belonged there. Hard cover, pale blue, stars stamped into the fabric spine. No title on the front. Your daughter reached for it. You caught her wrist gently. What is that? She frowned. My story. We didn't bring any books. She looked genuinely confused. Yes, we did. You picked it up instead. It was warm, not room warm, body warm. You opened to the first page. A drawing filled the paper, soft watercolor shapes, a family standing in front of a pale house with a wide porch, 3 figures, a man, a woman, a child. The man's face was blurred, the woman's face was blurred, the child's face was clear, your daughter's. Your wife sucked in a breath. You flipped the page. Another illustration, the family inside the living room, 3 armchairs by the fire. Another page, the hallway of framed photos. Another, the staircase. Another, the child's room. Each one a moment you'd already lived. The next page was blank, except for a sentence printed at the bottom. And then it was time for bed. You closed the book. The cover was warm in your hands. From somewhere in the walls, the lullaby resumed, soft, patient, unmistakably proud. Your daughter leaned against your wife and yawned, a real yawn, a tired human one. That scared you more than anything else, because it meant the house wasn't just pretending to know bedtime, it was winning. Story 19. The hallway locks into place. You didn't let your daughter out of your sight, not for a second. You stood between her and the bed, the strange storybook pressed tight to your chest like it might burn through your ribs. Your wife hovered close, one hand gripping your sleeve so hard it hurt. Shoes on, you whispered. We're leaving. Your daughter blinked up at you, already glassy-eyed with sleep. But the story, no. The hallway light flickered, once, twice, then steadied. The door to the child's room drifted inward a fraction, not closing, aligning, until the opening framed the bed perfectly, like a photograph waiting to be taken. You stepped backward. The floorboards under your heel softened. not creaked, softened, as if the house had padded itself to keep you from making noise. Your wife whispered, "It's changing." You backed into the hallway. The corridor was shorter than it had been minutes ago. The distance to the stairs had shrunk, compressing like a lung exhaling. The walls looked the same, but your skin insisted they were closer. You tried the door at the end of the hall, locked, not with a click, with a final sound deep in the wood, like a bolt sliding somewhere you couldn't see. You tried another, locked, another, locked. All the exits upstairs had become bedrooms. The staircase light brightened. Below, the house hummed in a steady, soothing rhythm. The rule was tightening. Story 20, the bath runs, again. You pulled your daughter away from the room. She didn't fight you, that was the problem. She went limp in your arms, head tipping toward your shoulder, the way it did when she was overtired and about to fall asleep in the car. Her body already trusted the ritual the house was building. Downstairs, water began to run, not a rush, a gentle fill. The bathroom faucet turned itself on with careful moderation, the sound controlled, polite. Steam seeped into the hallway again, curling along the baseboards like breath. "I shut that door," your wife whispered. You passed it without looking. The water stopped. Behind you, the toilet lid clicked shut. The fan turned on, a perfect bathroom routine. Your daughter murmured, "Warm." You squeezed her tighter. In the kitchen, the kettle clicked again. The house was layering comforts, stacking them, surrounding you with familiar cues until resistance felt like cruelty. You checked your phone, no signal, no maps, no emergency numbers. The screen dimmed on its own. Your wife whispered, "It's making us tired." She was right. Your bones felt heavy. Your eyes burned. From upstairs came the soft thump of mattress springs being tested. Story 21, the book, ads, a page. You set the storybook on the kitchen counter like it was a bomb. "We don't read it," you said. Your wife nodded. Your daughter frowned. "I like that one." You didn't answer. You opened the book anyway, because you needed to know what it thought came next. The blank page was no longer blank. A new illustration had appeared. The child in pajamas, brushing her teeth at a sink that looked exactly like the upstairs bathroom. Your stomach twisted. Beneath it, printed in neat letters, "First, a warm bath." You flipped the page. Another illustration. 3 toothbrushes and cups. Then, clean teeth. Another. The child being tucked into bed. Finally, a story. You slammed it shut. The cover was warmer now. Your daughter yawned again, longer this time, tears wetting the corners of her eyes. "I'm sleepy," she whispered. Your wife looked at you in panic. Behind you, upstairs, the toilet flushed. Once. The fan turned off. The house had finished the bath. It was moving on. Story 22. The lights start choosing for you. You turned every light on. That was your next rule. Kitchen, hallway, living room. Switch after switch, flooding the downstairs with brightness until shadows retreated into corners and the house looked, briefly, ordinary, overlit, exposed. Your wife stared at you like she understood the impulse. Your daughter squinted. "It's too bright." "Good," you said. The house waited, then one by one the lights dimmed, not all at once, room by room. The living room softened into evening. The hallway dropped into dusk. The kitchen stayed bright for 1 extra second, like a concession, then faded too. You ran back to the wall and flipped the switches again. Nothing changed. The house hummed, not loud, satisfied. The staircase light glowed warmer, inviting, a golden pool halfway up the steps like a campfire in a dark forest. Your daughter leaned toward it without realizing. Your wife pulled her back. No. The staircase brightened. Downstairs cooled. You could feel the temperature difference on your skin, the house using comfort like a leash. Your daughter whispered, "Up is warmer." You hated how right she was. Story 23. The door that leads nowhere. You grabbed your keys. The jingle sounded too loud in the muffled air. "Front door," you said. "Now." You moved fast before the house could correct you. The spot where the front door had been was wallpaper and framed photographs. Again. Different photos this time. You didn't stop to look. You clawed at the wall, solid. No seam, no handle, no give. Your wife ran to the side hall. There was a door here. Gone. Just another framed picture. The image inside it showed a hallway. This hallway, with 3 figures running. You stared. The figures were blurred, but the child's hair was unmistakable. Your daughter tugged your sleeve. "That's us." "No." Your wife slammed her shoulder into the wall. "Nothing." From upstairs came the soft creak of a bed being sat on. Once. Then the faint rustle of sheets being smoothed. Your daughter whimpered. The framed photograph updated. Now the child was at the foot of the stairs. Closer. Story 24. The house gets impatient. The humming changed, it deepened, lost its melody, flattened into a steady mechanical rhythm that vibrated faintly in your teeth. The temperature downstairs dropped another degree, not freezing, unpleasant, cold tile underfoot, cool air brushing bare arms. Your daughter shivered. Upstairs stayed warm. You could feel it leaking downward, like heat rising from a fire you weren't invited to. Your wife whispered, "It's punishing us." The bathroom faucet dripped once, twice, then stopped, a reminder. From the hallway upstairs came a new sound. Footsteps, soft, careful, bare, not rushing, not heavy, a child's weight. Your daughter buried her face in your chest. "That's not me." You believed her. The steps reached the top of the stairs, paused. The house exhaled. The stair light pulsed brighter. A shadow fell across the top step, not attached to anything you could see. The shadow swayed, like someone rocking on their heels, waiting to be noticed. Your wife squeezed your hand so hard your fingers went numb. You whispered, "We're not going up." The shadow didn't move, but the warmth from above rolled downward, thick and tempting, while the cold at your feet deepened just enough to hurt. The house wasn't chasing, it was waiting. Story 25. The floor decides where you stand. You pulled your daughter closer, lifting her fully into your arms, even though she was getting heavy, even though your shoulders burned. The floor under your feet shifted, not visibly, tactile. The hardwood softened beneath your shoes, the grain subtly sloping, tilting just enough that standing still required effort. It was like the house had turned the living room into the shallowest hill, gravity nudging you toward the stairs without ever being obvious about it. Your wife noticed when she nearly stumbled. "It's, slanted." You adjusted your footing. The slope increased a fraction. Not enough to knock you over, enough to make staying put exhausting. You stepped sideways. The floor corrected. You stepped backward. It resisted, grain rougher, friction catching the soles of your shoes like fingers. Toward the staircase, the floor felt smooth, welcoming. Your daughter murmured, half asleep, "Daddy, it's easier that way." You swallowed. The house hummed approval, low and steady. Story 26. Your wife gets left in the light. You tried moving fast. You turned and ran toward the kitchen, hoping momentum would beat whatever slow adjustment the house was doing. The living room lights flared behind you. Ahead, the kitchen lights dimmed. You crossed the threshold. In the living room snapped dark, not blackout, twilight. Your wife stumbled. You turned. She was frozen at the edge of the light, half in warm glow, half in shadow. The boundary was sharp, too sharp, like a line drawn with light. She tried to step forward. The light didn't move with her. She reached back. The shadow clung. You set your daughter down long enough to grab your wife's arm and yank. The moment she crossed fully into the kitchen, the living room lights returned to normal. Behind you, the staircase glowed brighter. Your wife whispered, "It separated me." You nodded. You didn't like how easily it had done that. Story 27. The child's room opens. Itself. You hadn't touched the stairs. They touched you. The first step warmed under your foot when you didn't realize you'd moved. The runner carpet softened, absorbing sound, guiding your weight upward before your brain caught up. "I didn't," you started. Your wife grabbed you. The step cooled instantly. The house recalculated. Upstairs, a door clicked. The child's room. The sound traveled down the stairwell like a dropped coin. Your daughter stirred in your arms. "That's mine." "No," you said too quickly. The upstairs hallway light turned on, then another, then another. A runway of amber leading straight to her door. The lullaby returned, quieter now, coaxing instead of commanding. From the top of the stairs came the soft pat-pat sound of someone smoothing a pillow, a bed being prepared. Your wife whispered, "It's not even hiding it anymore." She was right. The house had stopped pretending this was coincidence. It wanted the night finished. Story 28. The other child steps out. The shadow at the top of the stairs thickened, not darker, clearer. Edges gathered themselves, pulling into the vague shape of a small person standing just beyond the landing light. The glow bent around it the way lamplight bends around a body, outlining a head, narrow shoulders, arms held loosely at its sides. Your daughter stiffened in your arms. "That's not me," she whispered again. The shape tilted its head. The movement was too smooth, too practiced. The lullaby shifted key, slowing, deepening like a record, pressed by a finger. Your wife whispered, "Don't answer it." You hadn't realized your daughter had drawn breath to speak. You covered her mouth gently, heart hammering, and shook your head. The shape took a single step forward. The stair beneath it warmed. Your shoes didn't squeak. The house didn't creak. Everything stayed soft, controlled. The thing at the top of the stairs didn't walk like a ghost. It walked like a child who knew where it was going. When it reached the landing light, its features blurred, too bright to see clearly, but you could make out the shape of pajamas, pink, stars. Your daughter whimpered. The thing stopped, waited, then spoke in a voice so small and careful it hurt. "Daddy?" Your chest locked. Your wife made a choking sound. The house hummed, pleased it had given the shadow a mouth. Story 29. The warmest room. You backed away from the stairs. The floor resisted. Your heels caught slightly like the wood had grown sticky. Your wife whispered, "Don't move fast." She was right. The house responded to speed. The shadow child took another step. The temperature upstairs climbed. You could feel it washing over your face like opening an oven door. The warmth carrying soap and clean fabric, and that rain scent your daughter's room had started leaking everywhere. Downstairs cooled. Your daughter shivered. "I'm cold," she whispered. The house corrected immediately. A draft swept across the living room floor, cold enough to sting. Upstairs remained warm. You felt the pressure, comfort above, discomfort below, not force, incentive. You whispered, "Stay awake." Your daughter blinked, struggling. The shadow at the top of the stairs opened its arms slightly, not wide, just enough. The lullaby slowed again. Your wife whispered, "It's making a choice for us." Your teeth chattered. You realized the house had found the oldest lever in the world: warmth, sleep, a child who didn't want to be cold anymore. Story 30. The first parent breaks. Your wife squeezed your arm so hard it hurt. "We can't let her freeze." "I know." "She's shaking." "I know." Your daughter was trembling now, small involuntary shivers traveling through her shoulders. The cold draft thickened. Your breath fogged faintly. The shadow child stayed perfectly still, arms open, bathed in upstairs light like a shrine. Your wife whispered, Just upstairs, just to warm her. We don't have to put her in bed." You looked at her. She didn't meet your eyes. The house hummed softly. Your daughter whispered, barely audible, "Mommy, I'm tired." That broke something. Your wife stepped forward. The cold receded around her feet. She stopped, looked back at you with terror in her eyes. The warmth clung to her like a halo. "It's, nicer here," she said, confused. The house brightened the stair lights. You shook your head violently. She took another step. The shadow child shifted. Pleased, your daughter lifted her head. Your wife whispered, like she was convincing herself, "Just for a minute." The house hummed louder. The floor angled upward toward the stairs. You realized too late that the house didn't need all three of you to agree. It only needed one parent to move first. Story 31. The house rewards. Her step. Your wife's first step upward looked small, almost meaningless. Just the kind of shift you make when you're adjusting your balance. But the house treated it like a signed contract. The cold that had been biting at your ankles loosened instantly around her feet, retreating in a smooth wave as if it had never been real. The warmth from upstairs flowed down and wrapped around her calves, then her knees, then her waist, a soft embrace that made her shoulders drop a fraction. You watched her face change, confusion at first, then a kind of relief she didn't want to admit to. "It's nicer here," she said again, and there was a sleepy disbelief in her voice, like she'd walked into sunlight after being outside too long. The house hummed, not triumphant, not loud, pleased, like a parent hearing a child finally say, "Please." You tightened your grip on your daughter. Her shivering hadn't stopped, but it eased a little, the cold now targeting her more carefully. Pinpointed, persuasive. Your daughter's eyes fluttered, heavy lids trying to settle. "Stay awake," you whispered into her hair. She murmured something that might have been yes, might have been a yawn. Your wife took another step. This time the warmth followed immediately, climbing higher on her body, softening her breath, slowing her blinking. The staircase light brightened just enough to make her skin look healthier, less pale, as if the house was literally flattering her. A faint scent drifted around her, laundry detergent and that rain note that seemed tied to your daughter's room like a promise of clean sheets. Your wife turned back toward you, eyes wide with fear and apology. I'm not doing this. She's cold." "I know," you said, and your voice came out rougher than you wanted. "Come back down, please." She tried. You saw her try. Her heel lifted as if she could step backward. and the floor behind her became subtly wrong. Not a wall, not a trap, and just unpleasant. The cold returned down there, a thin layer of discomfort waiting for her like a punishment she could avoid simply by continuing upward, her heel lowered. Your daughter whispered, half asleep now, warm. At the top of the stairs, the shadow child stood with its arms slightly open, patient, posture gentle. It wasn't beckoning dramatically, it didn't have to. The house was doing the beckoning through temperature, light, and exhaustion, through the oldest tools in the world. Your wife swallowed. Just a minute, just to warm her up. Your daughter lifted her head again, eyes unfocused, and stared upward as if looking at a nightlight. Her lips parted and a tiny sound slipped out, an almost laugh, not quite hers, as if her throat was remembering how to make the sound it had heard earlier. You felt panic bloom hot in your chest. You stepped forward, forcing your feet against the slope the house had created. The wood fought you with friction, sticky and resistant, like walking through shallow syrup. Every step toward the stairs felt heavier than it should. The house hummed again, the lullaby threading through it, turning the air into something thick and sleepy. And then very softly from the upstairs hallway, your wife's voice whispered, though your wife's mouth did not move. Good, good, up is warm. Your wife's eyes widened. She heard it too. Her hand lifted and gripped the banister as if the house had given her arm a purpose. I didn't say that, she mouthed. You shook your head, heart pounding. The banister looked freshly polished where her hand touched it, shining like it had been waiting for her skin. Your daughter sagged in your arms, heavy with tiredness, and you understood with a sick clarity. The house didn't need to drag anyone. It only needed to make the right choice, feel like relief. Story 32. The staircase becomes a hallway. The moment your wife's hand closed around the banister, the staircase changed its identity. It stopped feeling like a staircase, a simple, countable set of steps, and became something else entirely. A gentle incline, like a carpeted hallway that happened to tilt upward. The step edges softened in shadow, the runner rug thickening until your eyes had trouble locating where one step ended and the next began. It was a trick of perception, yes, but it was also physical. Your feet slid easier going up than down, like the fibers were combed in one direction. Up, always up. Your wife took another step, then another, and it looked effortless now, as though her body had been reminded how to do something familiar. You followed, because you couldn't let her go alone and you couldn't stay below while your daughter drifted toward sleep in your arms. You forced yourself up the first step. The house rewarded you too. Not warmth, just less resistance, less cold, less bite, the tiniest reduction in discomfort, enough to make your muscles believe progress was the correct decision. It made you hate yourself. Your daughter's head lolled on your shoulder. She smelled like your daughter, soap and faint child sweat and the sweetness of shampoo, but underneath it now was that other clean scent the house carried, as if it was trying to blend her into itself. Halfway up, the living room behind you dimmed. Not darkness, not punishment, just irrelevance, like the house was closing a chapter. Your wife paused on the landing. Her breath came shallow, eyes darting to the upstairs hallway. The corridor was brighter than it had been, lights warm, corners blurred. Doors stood open like invitations. The child's room door looked wider, its interior glowing soft as candlelight. The shadow child stood a few feet back from the doorway now, giving space, giving manners. The outline looked smaller up close, more childlike, more believable. Pajamas with stars, sleeves a little too long, bare feet that didn't quite touch the carpet the way feet should. Your wife whispered, "Don't look at its face." You realized you'd been trying not to. Your daughter made a tiny noise, an approving hum, the kind she made when you finally carried her to bed after she fell asleep on the couch. The house hummed in harmony, and it felt, for a moment, like two lullabies layering into one. You stepped onto the landing fully and the air changed. Warmer, yes, but also quieter, not silent. Quieter in a padded, insulated way, like the upstairs had thicker walls, like it was designed for sleeping. Your wife reached toward the child's room door without fully meaning to. You said her name sharply. "Don't!" She stopped, fingers hovering. The shadow child moved its head slightly, a gesture that looked like concern. Then it spoke again, in a voice almost identical to your daughter's, soft and sleepy, not threatening at all. "Mommy." Your wife's face collapsed for a second. Fear, grief, exhaustion. She looked like she'd been awake for days. Your daughter shifted in your arms, stirred by the sound of her own voice coming from somewhere else. Her eyelids fluttered and she whispered, "I'm here." The shadow child answered, sweet as syrup, "So am I." A faint creak came from the child's bed inside the room, as if someone had sat on it and stood up again to make space. The house was not hiding what it wanted anymore. It was presenting it like a bedtime routine, step by step, gentle, inevitable. Your wife turned toward you, and the light made her eyes look too glossy, like she'd been crying longer than she realized. "What do we do?" she whispered. The house hummed softly, like it already knew the answer. Story 33, The Child's Room. "Smells like tomorrow." You tried to keep your voice steady. "We go back down." You said it like a plan, like an option, like the house hadn't already begun rewriting what down meant. You turned your body slightly, testing the staircase behind you with one foot. The runner rug resisted, just enough to be annoying. Your shoe caught at the fibers as if they'd been brushed upward, 1,000 tiny hooks insisting you continue the direction the house preferred. The air on the stairs cooled a fraction, a reminder waiting below. Up was warm, down was work. Your daughter sighed in your arms, and that sigh was a knife, because it wasn't fear. She wasn't panicking. She was doing what children do when they are finally dangerously comfortable. Your wife leaned into you, voice shaking. "She's going to fall asleep." "I know." And the house knew too. The child's room smelled like tomorrow morning. It's hard to explain unless you've walked into a child's bedroom early in the day. Clean sheets, faint toothpaste, warm fabric, the soft staleness of sleep still hanging in the air. The smell wasn't identical to your home, but it was close enough that your brain tried to accept it. Close enough that your daughter's body recognized it as safe. Your wife whispered, "It smells like her." Your daughter's eyes opened briefly. She pointed weakly. "Bed?" The shadow child stepped backward, clearing the doorway. It made space the way a polite child makes space when you want to pass. The gesture almost looked respectful. That was the horror of it, the manners, the patience, the tenderness that wasn't earned. Your wife's shoulders slumped. Just let her lie down. For a minute, we can wake her and leave." You knew that was a lie even as she said it. Not a deliberate lie, a survival lie. The kind you tell yourself when the truth is too sharp. You stepped forward toward the doorway. because keeping your daughter standing was keeping her cold, and you felt the house's leverage twist again. If you refused, you were making her uncomfortable. If you complied, you were stepping into the ritual. The child's bed was made perfectly. The star quilt, your daughter's name stitched into a little label, lay folded back at the top like a welcoming mouth. On the nightstand sat a cup of water with a straw, the exact kind your daughter liked so she wouldn't spill. Beside it, a small nightlight shaped like a moon. You didn't own it, but you could swear you'd seen it before. Your daughter murmured, "Moon." The nightlight clicked on by itself, a pale glow that softened the room into a safe blur. Your wife brushed your daughter's hair back, whispering, "Just a minute, okay? Just to warm up." Your daughter didn't answer. She was already slipping. The shadow child stood in the corner now, half hidden by the closet door, still and patient, watching. With a calm that felt ancient, you set your daughter down on the bed. The mattress welcomed her with a quiet sigh. It adjusted under her body, shaping itself to her spine, her hips, her shoulder. The quilt slid upward by itself to cover her feet. Your daughter exhaled, her whole body loosened like a knot coming undone, and the house hummed, deeper now, a vibration you felt in the floorboards, approval, satisfaction, completion of a step. Your wife sat on the edge of the bed, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She looked like she was watching something inevitable happen in slow motion. You leaned close to your daughter's ear. "Sweetie, wake up, we're leaving." Her eyelids fluttered. She whispered, almost inaudible, "Home." Your stomach dropped. The house answered in the walls, soft as breath. Yes. Story 34. The closet opens like a mouth. The closet door in the child's room had been cracked open the whole time, just a sliver of darkness behind the hanging clothes. You hadn't wanted to notice it. You'd been focusing on your daughter's breathing, on the way her chest rose and fell, on the way her tiny hand curled into the quilt. But the house doesn't let you ignore its punctuation. The closet door opened wider, not quickly, slowly, like a mouth remembering it has teeth. Inside hung 3 versions of your daughter's jacket, as before, along with a row of small shoes, some hers, some too new, some scuffed as if worn by a different child with the same size feet. The shelf above held folded pajamas stacked neatly, and tucked among them, like a secret kept in plain sight, was another folded blanket with a stitched label, a different name. Not your daughter's. Your wife saw it too. Her face tightened and she whispered, "There was someone else." The shadow child shifted in the corner, a subtle movement that looked like pride. You stood, moving between the closet and the bed, protective instinct rising like heat. "Back away," you said, though you weren't sure who you were speaking to. Your daughter's breathing slowed into deeper sleep. The house hummed quieter now, like it didn't want to wake her. The closet continued opening until it was fully wide. The darkness inside didn't look like normal darkness. It looked thick, layered, as if the closet was deeper than a closet should be. You took one step closer and the air changed, cooler, rain-scented, like the room marked you had seeped in here. The house was connecting rooms, connecting memories, connecting routines. Your wife whispered, "We have to take her now." You reached for your daughter. The quilt tightened slightly around her legs, not restraining, holding, as if the bed had decided she belonged to it. You pulled again, gentle. The quilt loosened, but only a fraction, like a reluctant parent letting go. Your daughter murmured, still asleep. 5 more minutes. A child's phrase, but the way she said it sounded rehearsed. The shadow child spoke softly from the corner, in your wife's voice this time, perfectly copied. Let her sleep. Your wife sobbed once, sharp, involuntary. Don't, she whispered. Don't use me. The closet's darkness rippled. Something moved behind the hanging clothes, not stepping out, just shifting, like a body turning in a too small space. The house hummed, calming, like it was soothing everyone into compliance. And then, from inside the closet, another whisper, so quiet you barely heard it, spoke your daughter's name like a lullaby. Your daughter smiled in her sleep. That smile terrified you, because it meant she heard it, because it meant part of her liked it, because it meant the house wasn't only holding her body anymore, it was holding her dreams.